The question over here is the differences that are between different types of people. Are they real differences? Do the differences count? And according to Torah and according to Kabbalah, the differences do count. So how do we put these together? Same way we can ask about a father and children. A father and children, mother and children, they love all their children. There isn't a mother who doesn't love their children. And even if the children turns into a criminal, that's not my son. But the part of him that says, Mommy, I love you, that's my son. Even children that a parent is disappointed with, the parents still love that child. So there is something more to the child than their essence. What about the child that's successful? Is the parent so excited about the success? They're more involved in the success of their child than the success of another person's child. Someone has a child who's brilliant. Is it the brilliance that the parent is so taken by? But the parent is not taken by the brilliance that someone else's son has. The nachas is, my son is brilliant. So you see the differences that there are between two children are differences that count even by a parent. So on one hand, a parent loves all children equally. On the other hand, a parent looks at different children different ways. So we're starting now to read inside. And he explains, V'af sheyesh revoves mine chelukim madreges b'neshamas gavoya al gavoya le'en kates, k'moy goydel mailas neshamas ha'avos ha'moshe Rabbeinu olav ha'shalom al neshamas dereseinu eila de'ikva Mashiach shem b'chinas ha'kvayim mamish l'gabi ha'moyach v'harosh. He says there are differences in souls. Compare the souls of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the patriarchs of our people, the holy ones, the soul of Moshe Rabbeinu, through which Hashem gave us the Torah. And compare that to the souls of our generation, who are called the heels of Mashiach. The heel was chosen intentionally to describe the last generations before Mashiach. Because in the human body, if you start from the head and you go to the heel, you can't get any lower. You can't get any lower. The soul of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Moshe Rabbeinu are considered the head, and the last generations are considered the heel, Ikva the Mashiach, the heel souls of the generation of when Mashiach has to come, the last generation. Now the way the Kabbalah explains this is that all of the Jewish people are like one body. It's as if Hashem created one big soul. And then what he put into Adam HaRishon was a soul that would be the general soul for all the souls which will later descend from Adam HaRishon. Now there are souls that come from the brain of the original soul, and there are also souls that come from the heart of the original soul, the hands of the original soul, the feet of the original soul, and the heels of the original soul. So really all of us are rooted, all of our souls are rooted to the original soul, the mother of all souls, if we want to use that term, the father of all souls. So there are souls, the minds, the brains of the Jewish people, they are taken from the head of this original soul. And the emotional people, Jewish people who daven, who care, who have a strong sense of emotion, their soul originates in the soul that is the heart, the spiritual heart of the original soul. Men of action, hands of the original soul. And then the feet of the original soul, those are the movers. So you can't compare the two. There are differences that count. There are differences that are real. But when you think about the human body having different parts, the human body having different parts is really one unit. It's one person. And if someone pricks the heel or the little finger on the foot, he's going to feel pain all over. He could shake all over. The brain won't be able to work because he feels pain, because it's one unit. So although there's a difference between the head and the heel, but the head and the heel is one unit, feeling the head, feeling the feet. Now, who's the boss? Who's the control center of this unit called the body? Where is the control center of this unit called the body? The brain. So the brain makes decisions. The brain is the nerve center of everything that goes on from head to toe. And if something's wrong with the brain, it's going to affect the corresponding part of the body that is connected to that part of the brain. So the brain seems to be, though, so to say, on the top of the chief. So the brain seems to be the king. On the other hand, if the brain has no hands or feet, Chas v'shalom, heaven forbid, that brain won't be able to think up a lot, but will accomplish nothing. For the brain to get around to places, it needs feet. And that's what the feet have to offer to the brain. The feet say to the brain, you're the brain, you control me, but you need me to get to places. And without feet, you're not a complete man. And the hands say to the brain, you're the boss, you control me. But without hands, you can't invent, you can't build, you can't do things. So the brain is the king. But the brain also needs the feet. There are differences. There's that oneness, there's a unity in the body, that the head needs the heels. And the head receives and derives benefit from the heels. And the head is only complete when it has heels. But on the other hand, is the head equal to the heels? The head and the heels are equal because they're both in the same book called the human body. The head and the heels are equal because pain in the heel is pain in the head. But the quality of the head, the brain cells, and the quality of the cells in the heel, totally different quality. Similarly, the Shamas Yisrael. There are Jews, the Jews, the Rebbes, Moshe Rabbeinu, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they're the brain. And the Shamas Yisrael, different Shamas, have their place in the scale of the form of the human body. So therefore differences come. And these differences are not only in ancient history. He says, "V'chein b'chol dar v'dar yesh roshei alfi Yisrael shenishmerseim hem b'chinas roish shemayach l'gabi neshamas ha'amoin v'am haaretz." And so too in every generation. There are the heads of the generation, and there are the feet of the generation, the hands of the generation. In every generation, it's so. The heads of the generation is the Rebbe of the generation. In fact, it says in Sfarim, the word Rebbe has 3 letters, Reish Beis Yud. It stands for Roish B'nai Yisrael. Roish B'nai Yisrael, the head of the children of Israel. That head is a key word in understanding what a Rebbe is. It's not just a teacher. It's not just a wise man who offers advice. It's not just a CEO, a manager. A Rebbe is much more than that. It's the brain. And the brain is the control center, is the programming, is really the vitality. The nerves that are in the brain give vitality to the rest of the body. When the brain his cells are not there, there's something missing, even a little switch off from one little cell can have an effect on a hand and a foot and so on. So it is really those nerves are giving vitality to the rest of the body. They're giving sense to the rest of the body, the sensory qualities to the rest of the body. And it's not only in a historic sense, take the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu, that's the head, and our generation are the heels, but in every generation is also the head, the brain, those are the Rebbes of the generation, their neshama is the head, the control center, the source of the vitality to the rest of the Jewish people. So therefore that we have these differences. We didn't address exactly how these differences, but we see that Kabbalah and Torah in general looks and recognizes the differences. So here you have already the two sides. On one hand, we're all the children of Hashem. And every Yid, like it says later in Tanya, Perik Lamed Beis, Kula Masimois Va'av Echad L'Cholana. Why are we brothers? Because we all have same DNA, godly DNA. It's Kula Masimois Va'av Echad L'Cholana, one Father for all of us. So we're all the same. All the Shamas are the same. But now he's telling us that, wait a minute, there's a whole structure, there are heads, there are heels. And in 7 every generations. And when you get into the nitty-gritty of Kabbalah, every neshama, every soul in the general term, is made up of 3 souls. Sometimes they describe 5 souls. Here he's addressing 3 souls. We're saying there's nefesh, ruach, neshama. Nefesh is vitality that gives vitality to the body, energy. That is the soul that gives energy. Then there's now ruach is another level of soul that focuses on emotions. Energy is moving around, and there are energetic people, and there are people with less energy. Drive. People with more drive, less drive. That's nefesh. Ruach is emotional. Some people are more sensitive than others. Some people are more taken by feelings than others. One of my students texted me today. He doesn't have feelings. He doesn't have feelings. He has everything, but he doesn't have feelings. He's missing a little ruach. And there's neshama is more brainy, more intellectual. So here, there's each neshama, each one of us has nefesh, ruach, neshama. So the Alter Rebbe says over here that just like there are differences in the neshama level, intellect level, there are differences in emotional level, and ruach, there's a differences in nefesh. When you compare this neshama for the other neshama, this ruach for other ruach, this nefesh for other nefesh, there are tens of thousands, millions of differences and levels in each one of us. The complexity of the neshamas of the Jewish people, the differences in the neshamas of the Jewish people are immense. Immense. So therefore, on one hand, we have one essence, and then there's this development of so many different differences. How did this happen? Notwithstanding all these differences, notwithstanding the complexity of the differences, comparing emotions to emotions, comparing feelings to feelings, notwithstanding all those differences, it all comes from one essence. The brainiest, the most serious, on the one hand, to the most lightweight and lightheaded and simple Jew. So the simplest of Jews, Kal Shebekalim, usually is associated with someone who's irreverent, a joker, a clown, doesn't take Yiddishkeit seriously. So this clown has the same essence like Moshe Rabbeinu. Think about it. So if you want to say all men are created equal, is it true? Yeah. The essence of the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu is the same essence of the regular Pashat Yid, simple Jew. Because they're both part of Hashem, Chelik and Lekam Imam. But there's the rest of the story, the development. The source is from the Moyach HaElyon, the brain. So in the physical body, what's the source of everything? Is the brain. In fact, Chassidus relates that the seed and the egg is connected somehow to the brain. Because the brain is the programming of the whole human being. That's where it's programming. That is where his vitality comes, his senses come from. It's all in the brain. And the seed has that programming. The seed has the whole DNA that's in the brain is in the seed. And there's this connection between the seed and the brain. So all of it, so to say, by Hashem, there's a spiritual brain. It's called the Moyach HaElyon, supernal brain, they call it. Which is obviously something spiritual, something in the spiritual entity by Hashem Kaviyachal, which is somehow described as the brain, the supernal brain, the godly brain, for no better term. Of course, everything is not in a similar at all to the physical aspect of it. But that's a level. Sheibchin is Chochmah Ilah. It's Hashem's intelligence, so to say. So, how does this develop? How does the development happen from the essence of the neshama, which is part of Hashem, down to the heel souls, the souls that are heel levels, that just are brainless, for no better word. So he's going to compare it to how from the seed and the egg, what happens? An embryo shaped. It's a cell. Then the cell develops and develops until there's a little baby. And then the baby develops and then there's hair and nails, right? So all of this takes 9 months. The scientists speak today about stem cells. What are stem cells? So stem cells are cells that haven't yet been developed. From stem cells of the original seed of the father and the mother, raw DNA coming together. So some of it is going to turn into brain tissue, some of it is going to turn into muscle, some of it is going to turn into fingernails. But you know fingernails have our whole DNA? Our fingernails has the DNA. Same the DNA, it's in the brain as in the fingernails. Because the fingernails came from that, the fingernails also came from the original seed, an egg of father and mother. So there's still the seal and the sign and the remnants of the original DNA, the core of the fingernails, the essence of the fingernail is the same essence that's in the brain. So we're comparing the Jewish people, the neshama, the soul of a yid. That is, what does Hashem call the soul of a yid? My children. And Kabbalah and Chassidus take this spiritually literal. That from Hashem's spirituality became the spirituality of a neshama, of a soul. So it also goes through a process similar to pregnancy. From an original seed, an embryo, stem cells, it develops and into different parts, some heads, some brain, some heart, some muscle, some hand, some heel, some fingernail. But even the fingernail has the original DNA. Similarly, the neshamas. We're saying there are differences in the neshamas. We're saying that there are differences in Yidden. There's a Yid who's a loser. A Yid who's so irreverent, doesn't care about anything. How is he connected? The answer is, he has still the essence. He has still the godly DNA. And for that we are Taka brothers. But hey, you're not the brain. You're a heel. You have to remember that. But then if I'm a heel, he's going to ask himself, Rabbi, you want me to come to shul? I'm just a heel Jew. So the Rebbe is going to tell him, you know, I'm the brain. You're a heel Jew. And you're making me a lot of pain. There's a splinter in the heel. So if a Jew says, I'm a heel Jew, I don't come to shul. So the Rebbe says, go bring all the Jews into shul, all the heel Jews. Because when there's a splinter in the heel, I can't go on my splinter, I can't go anywhere, I can't daven, I can't learn. The brain has pain. It could be the heel isn't even aware of how it's getting infected. You have a splinter and it gets deep enough and make you pus, right? And it gets an infection. Does the heel have the seichel to know that the splinter in the heel is a big problem? The heel has no seichel. So the heel is okay with a splinter in the heel, even though the infection is now in the heel. But the heel has no seichel. So the heel says, I'm not coming to shul, I'm not interested in shul. I don't want to come to a class, I have no brains to learn Tanya, I have no brains, I'm a heel. Does it make a difference if I put on tefillin, if I ben shlicht, I have to come home in time for Shabbos? I'm a heel. Tanya says I'm the last generation, we're all heels. We're all one unit. And we all have the same stem cells. What the scientists are working on today is how from a developed cell to get back to stem cell. That's what they're working on. How from a piece of skin can you make it back stem cell, should be able to change into a cell to go back into the brain. Someone who has Alzheimer's, Rahman al-Islam, should be able to heal from stem cells because his cells in his brain are dead. Let's put in stem cells, it's going to revitalize them. This is the whole development that's going on. So he says inside in Tanya Class haben hanimshech b'moyach ha'av shafilu tzipori raglav nesam v'tipazu. Even the fingernails come from the seed that is connected to the brain. V'tipazu mamish, from that drop of sperm that is developed, the fingernails, that is same drop that makes the brain cells. It's one essence. And that's why they have what we call today the DNA. Now how does it change? When it is developed 9 months in the womb of the mother, and it goes through the process of change in the mother's womb from embryonic, what they call cells, which are stem cells, and then in 9 months, from that little shmudge turns into eyes and a nose and hair and nails and a whole menschala, a whole human being. Ve'im kol zeh oidenek shuram yichadis b'yichud niflo v'otzim b'mhusavatz musarisha shaysatibis mayatvav. And but even after that change, it's still connected to its original essence, which is the brain of the father and mother. And like I said before, the fingernails have the DNA. Even though the fingernails is so... It's fingernail. Now he takes this a step further, and it's going to lead, and he's going to lead to how it's in the relationship between the neshamas and the Rebbe, and the Rebbe personalities. After the child is born, it has fingernails and it has a brain. And he brings from sources in Gemara and Kabbalah that even now there's a connection with our fingernails, even in the baby, even the child is born, even a human being, there's still a connection between the fingernails and the brain. Somehow the brain is still giving vitality and sensory and something to the fingernails. It's not only that the fingernails have a signature of the DNA, which is remnant of the original stem cells in which it was formed, that had the DNA of father and mother, but even after birth there's a connection and a vitality. The fingernails draw sustenance and energy. The Gemara says over there says that the mother and the father, each one gives different parts of the development of the fetus, and the white of the father, the white of the sperm, is from where bones, nails, and tendons and arteries come from. The Eitz Chaim in Kabbalah tells us that the skin of the original Adam Arishan had a covering of nail. It was a different type of skin. So we have nail only in our fingertips. But the original Adam Arishan was completely covered with some kind of a stronger protection of a nail type of covering on his whole body. And that nail type of covering of his whole body, the Eitz Chaim, the Kabbalah says, is connected with a level of spiritual intellect called Tvuna. So here you see again, the Kabbalah is connecting fingernails, which is really the end of the person, is his fingernails. That's why after Shabbos we put fingernails to the light, because it's the fingernails is our connection with outside of us. Here's as far as we go, right? As far as my hands extend, my feet walk, and at the end, the furthermost tip of my fingers are nails. So the nails are further, and it's also rougher than skin. So that's as far away from the man, from original man, from the humanity of man. As far as away you can get is his fingernails. After that, it's gone. After that, you just clip it off. So we want to put light of Hashem, the light of Torah, light of Yiddishkeit, onto the next week. We're going to be working with our hands. So we want our hands to be blessed with light. Not only successful, but also we should learn a clean living. We should use our hands for clean and kosher deeds. So we put it under the light of the Havdalah candle, of the fire of the Havdalah. And we also focus on our fingernails. That not only our hands should be clean, but the fingernails, which is the most distant part from our humanity. It's tougher than our skin. It's less human, so to say, than our skin. That too should be under the light of Torah and of Yiddishkeit. But it says in the Eitz Chaim that the nails too are connected with Tvuna. So the point he's making is that we have to understand a fundamental point, that even after the development of the child, still the brain is connected with the fingernails. Fingernails, also we said about the pains in the heel, fingernails, you have some of that, toenail problems, the fingernails can make a big headache. So the fingernails count. But here he's saying that the vitality, there is still connection between brain and even after birth. And this is all leading up to the clincher, how today also, in the spiritual realm, when we're talking about the birth of Neshamas Yisrael, the birth of our Neshamas. So no matter what level our Neshamas is rooted in the original Neshama, from which all Neshamas are taken from, whether it's rooted in a lower level or higher level, but in the end, all are rooted in the essence of Hashem. Because that Neshama, of the original Neshama of Adam Rishon, also started as one essence of Hashem. And from that, Hashem developed all the different parts and structure of the original Neshama of Adam Rishon, from which we evolve and which our Neshamas developed. But it's all this. Here's how the contrast is: the diversity and the equality of the Neshamas is the differences are differences that Hashem made, and they're important. Because Hashem, like in a human body, everyone is important. The feet play an important role. Like we said before, the brain without feet can't get anywhere. The brain without hands is can't do anything. Can't even feed himself. Right? So the brain needs a mouth, needs teeth to chew, needs fingernails to claw to do things. The brain, and it's because Hashem, that's a complete person. Someone that doesn't is crippled. So Hashem wants us to be complete physically, and Hashem made a complete structure of the Jewish people, and everyone has their role, and everyone's role is important, and that's why there's also this idea that the Rebbe always worried that Klal Yisrael, that Mashiach can't come until all the Jews are going to be ready for Mashiach to come. That's why it's taking so long. That's why it's taking so long, because all of us have to be part of it. And it's our responsibility to get those who are not involved to become more involved, because it's all one body. So if the foot is asleep, you can't walk around if your foot is asleep. You have your sensation your foot is asleep. You can't get up. You have to wake up the foot. You have to shake it up a little. You have to smack it. I don't know, what are you doing? Your foot is asleep. Your foot is asleep. So that's a problem. It's a problem for the whole being. So if our feet is asleep, we can't walk out of Golos. In order to walk out of Golos, we've got to wake up our feet. So it's our responsibility to do that. So as we said before, Kocho Mamish, Kaviyochu b'sherish kol hanefesh ruach neshama shel klal Yisrael lamayla b'yidasem madreg lamaydeig alidei shtal sh'sayla misabiyah b'chmas yizbarach nksiv kulam b'chmasisa nis'av mimenu nefesh ruach u'neshama shel amei haaretz b'klus ye'erechas. So too by Hashem. There's thousands of levels. There are millions of neshamas Yisrael from the beginning of history. Today there's 15 million Yidden, let's say. But if you look at every generation of Yidden, of thousands of since Hashem gave the Torah 3,500 years, let's say. Let's count from then. So each generation had millions of Yidden. The next generation came, every neshama is special, is unique, and each neshama has a different level of nefesh, ruach, and neshama, and it all comes from the original neshama, and the original neshama comes from one spark of Hashem. But it's developed like the 9 months of pregnancy. The embryo develops into different parts and shapes. So too, the Kabbalah talks about different worlds. The 4 worlds, different worlds, and each world is different stages. So there's also, in 9 months, there's the development which the doctors count, which the biologists count. The first week and the second week is this, the third week is that, the fourth week, the first month, the first trimester, the second trimester, then in each trimester, each week, and so they're counting, and the days, and the cell splits, and it multiplies, and it becomes an embryo, all this stuff taking place, this movement, this growth, this change, this constant change taking place. So he says that this change that's taking place is also taking place in the spiritual worlds from our neshama. So neshama comes down. Neshama is born to a person today This neshama went through a lot of change. It went through a lot of change, and therefore it may be a person who's simple, born into a simple family, has a simple understanding of Yiddishkeit, because it went down through so many changes and development. We may even call them the fingernails of the Jewish people, the heels of the Jewish people. This person is very simple, not smart, not talented, not emotional. Garnished, a heel. So nevertheless, this is part of the process, and they're still connected. It's still connected with the essence of Hashem. Now, what's the purpose of these neshamas? The purpose of every neshama has a purpose. Every neshama has a purpose. And in fact, it says in Chassidus that when Mashiach comes, and here we're putting down the heel, right? And we're saying the generation of Mashiach are heels. And it says in Chassidus and in Midrashim that when Mashiach comes, Moshe Rabbeinu is going to look at these people and he's going to say, this is the generation that welcomed Mashiach? 2018? 2018? Look at what's out there in the world. I can use my smartphone for such narishkeiten. And I'm coming to Tanya Shir? This is a whole night. New York, Manhattan is how far away? And this is after all the tsaras we went through for thousands of years. And my parents are Holocaust survivors. And the Russian Jews smacked right and left. You wanted to come in here, smack out. You want to be a doctor, smack it out. You want to be a chalnik, smack, get out. So we've been smacked and beaten and put down, and we're still here. And we say to Hashem, listen, we're here. The heel listens to the brain. No questions asked. The good part of the heel is, it's no negotiations. The brain says walk, I walk. The brain says go, I go. If your kid is too brainy, he gives you an argument. Someone called me up yesterday, what do? I can't hit my kid. Right? When I was a kid, my father gave me petch. Right? And I know, Russian parents still, even the young ones, give petch. But they're scared. Because the kid in school can report their father. So yeah, we have a problem. But the kid's a wild animal. So he says, what should I do? My kid's a wild animal in the supermarket, thrashing himself on the floor. So you're not supposed to do that. And they come home. You embarrassed me. Good. So the kid's arguing with the father. So what happened years ago? You got a patch. You open your mouth to your father. Yeah? You remember it? You got a patch also? I also got a patch. Yeah. Even girls could get a patch, but they have to be really fresh for that. You have to listen. So that's because the kids are too brainy today, and they have a mouth. But heels listen. The good news is, Yidden who are still committed today are special neshamas. And it says in Chassidus and Midrashim that when Mashiach is going to come, he's going to say, you know what? I am humbled. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to say, I don't know if I would be in your times, living through your trials and tribulations, going through what you're going through. I don't know if I would be still in shul and in bismedrash and in yeshiva. Moshe Rabbeinu himself will be humbled by our generation. And the truth is, I say this to parents, the kids who are still going to yeshiva, kids are still eating, still listening to parents. Our kids, they're still listening to us, or if they're still listening to us, all kids still listen more or less to their parents. They're tzaddikim. There's nothing to stop them from going away. They still have that neshama in them. So yes, maybe we're the heel generation, but we're still connected, and we still have the vitality. And in that way, maybe we're not as complex and as deep as the earlier generations. We're not the Kabbalists of the earlier generations. Maybe we don't have that sensitivity and that depth of the earlier generations. Hey, but bottom line, we're here. And after thousands of years of galus, of being outside of Eretz Yisrael, and of being persecuted, and all the trash that all of the world did to the Jewish people, and we're still hanging in there, we're still here. Am Yisrael Chai, hey. So Hashem wanted that it should be neshamas, souls that are healed, to prove a point, and that is the strength of a neshama, the strength of a Jew, that even if a Jew is of a lower development than the souls of our ancestors, the souls of our Rebbes, the souls of Moshe, the souls of the time of the biblical times, the souls of the times of the Mishnah, the souls of the time of the Beis Hamikdash, the souls of the times of the Amoraim, of the Kabbalahs. We have the lower souls. And still, notwithstanding that, we're still attached to Yiddishkeit. We're still coming to shul. We're still giving tzedakah. We still are connected, and we're teaching that to our children, and we're bringing our children to have a bris and to stay connected. That is greatness. So Hashem has purpose in each time, each generation. The heels gets the brains somewhere. Moshe Rabbeinu was the brains, and he looks at the heels and says, "Your heels got us to this generation, so late in history, and you're still connected." And where do we get this from? Where did the heel taka get it from? It's because heel shmiel. The heel also has the DNA of the brain. Because because every year, no matter how low he is, no matter how high he is, he has the essence of Hashem. And that's what he says, Ki yanika zachayis nefesh ruch neshama shel amei oretz u'menefesh ruch neshama shel hatzadikim v'chacham v'rosh bnei Yisrael shebedeinu. And that's the idea of a Rebbe. That's the idea of the real Torah leaders of each generation. They are the brains of each generation. They are the teachers of each generation. And when we talk about a Rebbe personality, that is where the vitality comes for the body, so to say, of the generation. There's an interesting pasuk. The pasuk gives us a mitzvah to attach ourselves to Hashem. There's a mitzvah to attach yourself to Hashem. So the Gemara asks, how can you attach yourself to Hashem? Hashem is intangible. How do you connect with Hashem? So the Gemara says, how do you attach yourself to Hashem? Attach yourself to Torah scholars. The Torah scholars are learning Torah. And the higher level of a Torah scholar, and certainly if a person is a Rebbe personality, so that's a Rebbe is the embodiment of Torah. There's nothing else to him besides Torah. So when you're attaching yourself to the embodiment of Torah, the personification of Torah, so you're attaching yourself to Torah, you're attaching yourself to that, to Hashem. So what did the Chazal say? What is the mitzvah to attach yourself to Hashem? Attach yourself to Rebbe personalities. Attach yourself to the Torah scholars, the Torah greats of each generation. And through them you attach yourself to Hashem. And what's the connection? The connection is, as we said before, the brains is the control center of the entire body. The brains even the fingernails are connected to the brains. The heels are connected to the brains. And the heels and the fingernails still get vitality from the brain. Certainly, and it's even more so in the spiritual sense. So it is the Rebbes of each generation. Through them we get the vitality to connect with Hashem. It's because, what's the brain? In our experience, Torah. Torah is the brain. Torah is the programming for Jewish life. The Rebbe, or the Torah scholar, is the embodiment and the personification of Torah, because their whole existence is a Torah type existence. So if we want to be connected with our brain, we connect with Torah scholarship and the personification of Torah scholarship, which is a Rebbe and a Talmud Chacham personality. So just like it is in the physical sense, the brain is the control center of the body, even the heels and the fingernails. So you consider yourself alone as Shama. So be in the company of a Rebbe, be in the company of Torah scholarship. Because the Torah scholar has in him that programming. And he says this is even if someone rebels against Torah and denies Torah scholarship. And even if he insults Torah scholars, he too is connected. It's a sick heel. But a sick heel also gets vitality from the brain. A paralyzed heel, whatever is still left over there, still gets its vitality from the brain. It's a paralyzed heel, so it's not connected to the brain, so it's not moving around. But it's still connected to the brain. That's what he says, even someone who rebels against the Torah scholar, who rebels against Rebbe, he too is connected, but he doesn't get the vitality straight. It comes, so to say, from over the shoulder, from the behind. I can give you a gift two ways. So if I like you, and I have to give you a gift, so I smile to you, here, take it. But you insulted me, and you let me down, but I got to give you a gift, so I don't want to look you in the face. I say, or if worse yet, I'll just throw it behind me, here, take it, right? Gotcha. The worker who works, the boss who pays a worker who's a good guy, he says, here, thank you, that was wonderful work you did. It's a smile is even more than the paycheck. But the guy who's a jerk and he's giving the boss a hard time, he says, here's the paycheck. He doesn't want to see me. We all get, so he's saying that everyone gets their vitality from the brain of the Jewish people. Everyone gets their vitality from the Talmidei Chachamim, from a Rebbe personalities, from Torah personalities. Some get it directly, some get it over the shoulder. And this is what's so important for us, for all of us. Everyone has to be connected with the brain to learn Torah themselves. That's why Hashem gave us brains. He made it easy us. We're not just pure heels. It's a heel with brain cells in it. And we have brains, and we have heart, and we learn Chassidus, we learn Gemara, we learn Torah, we come to Shul. We all have that. The more we're connected to brain, the more we have vitality. The more we're connected to Torah teachings, to Torah personalities, to the idea of a Rebbe, who in this world personify and guide us, and are the control center, how to live in this world now, the more we are having our vitality. And the more we're revealing our real essence. Because what's the point? Even the fingernail has DNA. How do we reveal our DNA? The fingernail has no brains, has no seichel to appreciate that it has DNA. The heels doesn't have the seichel to appreciate it. So if you want to bring out your essence, if you want to tune into your essence, which is infinite, which is part of Hashem, which is godly, which is your yichus, it's your, who are you? Who are you? What are you? What's Tanya? Tanya is who are you and what are you? So who are you? What are you? You're the Hashem's son. You're Hashem's daughter. You're godly. Just like Hashem is infinite, you have infinite potential. How do I reveal that? By connecting to the brain in our generation, connecting to the brain in our life, to connecting to Torah, to connecting to Hashem. And that reveals that we're not just plain fingernails. It brings out the stem cell that's in us. That we have the same, and that essence, there's no difference between heels and brain. There's no difference between fingernails and things. Our essence, we're all chelik alaka, we're achim mamash, we're all brothers, we're all connected, we're all equal. In that sense, we're all created equal. On the other hand, there are differences. Both are true. Torah recognizes the equality that's between us, that comes from our essence, and also we have to recognize the diversity and the differences. And each one plays an essential role. Because if you were not needed, Hashem wouldn't put you here. And if Hashem put you in this world, it's because He feels you're needed. You're needed to the degree that without you, we're in a mess. That's what it says by Mountain Torah. When Hashem gave the Torah, He waited for every Jew to get up and stand by the mountain. And maybe there were a few schluffers who slept late and kratzing around, and they were busy with text messaging, so they didn't make it to shul. But Hashem waited for each and every one of us, because each and every one of us is important. A father and mother wait for every child to come home, and then they start the Seder. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Great class.